What does it take to break a woman who's already faced the fires of war? In a small, fluorescent-lit courtroom in rural Georgia, the air was thick with tension. The crowd murmured, their eyes fixed on Aisha Carter, a black woman seated quietly at the defendant's table. Her hands were cuffed, her face composed, but her eyes burned with a fire that no one in the room could fully grasp. She was no stranger to battles, but this one was different. This was a fight not just for her freedom, but for her dignity. Aisha had been arrested on a flimsy charge of disorderly conduct after a traffic stop escalated. The officer, Deputy Mark Hensley, had a reputation in town. Whispers of his bias followed him like a shadow, but no one dared challenge him. Not in this county. Not until today. As Aisha sat, her mind drifted to the deserts of Afghanistan, where she'd earned her Navy SEAL trident. She'd faced ambushes, saved lives, and carried the weight of her team's trust. Yet here she was, reduced to a number in a system that saw her skin before her story. The judge, a stern man with a gray mustache, called for order. Hensley stood at the witness stand, his chest puffed out, recounting a version of events that painted Aisha as belligerent, dangerous. His words dripped with contempt, and when he stepped down, he passed her table. In a flash, his boot connected with her Sheena deliberate, humiliating kick. Gasps rippled through the room. Aisha didn't flinch. Her eyes locked onto his, steady as a sniper's aim. The judge barked for silence, but the damage was done. Hensley smirked, thinking he'd won. Then came the twist no one expected. A man in a crisp suit rose from the back of the courtroom. "Your Honor, I request to speak," he said, his voice cutting through the murmurs. He was Commander James Tate, Aisha's former commanding officer, a white man whose presence shifted the room's energy. Tate had flown in from Virginia the moment he'd heard of Aisha's arrest. He carried a folder thick with her commendations medals for valor, reports of her saving his life in a firefight. "This woman," he said, his voice trembling with restrained anger, "is a hero. She's faced worse than this officer's prejudice and come out stronger." The courtroom fell silent. Tate's words painted a picture of Aisha's past, leading missions in hostile territory, dragging wounded comrades to safety, earning respect in a world that rarely welcomed women, let alone black women. Hensley's smirk faded. The judge's face tightened, his gavel frozen in midair. Aisha, still silent, felt the weight of her past lift her. She wasn't just a defendant now, she was a warrior, her truth a weapon. As Tate spoke, Aisha's lawyer, a young woman named Maya, seized the moment. She presented evidence, dashcam footage showing Hensley's aggression during the stop, witness statements contradicting his story. The kick in court, Maya argued, was the final proof of his malice. The room buzzed with whispers. Aisha's eyes met Maya's, a silent acknowledgement of their shared fight. For Aisha, this wasn't just about her, it was about every person who'd been judged by their skin, every voice silenced by power. The judge dismissed the charges, citing insufficient evidence and misconduct by Hensley. The officer's face flushed red, his career now under scrutiny. Aisha stood, her cuffs removed, and walked out of the courtroom, her head high. Outside, the sun hit her face, and for the first time that day, she smiled. Tate waited for her, offering a salute. "You didn't need me," he said. "You never did." But Aisha shook her head. "We all need someone to remind us who we are," she replied. In the days that followed, Aisha's story spread. The town, once divided, began to question its own biases. Hensley faced suspension, his actions exposed. Aisha didn't gloat. She returned to her work, training young recruits, teaching them resilience, not just in war, but in life. Her scars, visible and invisible, told a story of survival, of standing tall when the world tried to knock her down. She'd faced bullets and bombs, but the hardest battles were the ones fought in rooms like that courtroom, where courage meant refusing to be diminished. Aisha's legacy wasn't in the medals or the headlines. It was in the quiet strength she carried, the kind that inspired others to stand up, to speak out. She'd learned long ago that true victory wasn't about defeating an enemy, it was about rising above their hate, proving them wrong with every step forward. And as she walked away from that courthouse, she knew this was just one more battle won, not by force, but by the unbreakable spirit of a woman who'd already conquered so much. Yendi.